Hi everyone, Scott with CyberScribe.org, and this is an introduction to the iOS of Cisco, the operating system that they put on their routers and switches, and the operating system that you're going to be using and configuring if you're studying for the CCNA or other Cisco tests. In previous videos I talked about how to set up these things, the hardware, and how to connect with the console cable to your computer to access these interfaces. And as you can see on the left hand side, I'm already connected with PuTTY. The iOS is a command line interface, so this is all your configuration is going to be done like this. And the first thing that you're going to see when you start up or connect to the switch is this prompt here. And this, what you see is you see that symbol right there. That means that you're in user exec mode. And that means you have limited capabilities and it's pretty much a read-only mode. There's not much you can do. Well, how little can you do? Question mark it and check it out. Because what I just did is the context-sensitive help. So what's really nice about the Cisco IOS is that you don't have to always go to the internet, go to forums and look and see what command is this, how do I finish this command. If you're not sure, put a question mark there and it'll tell you. It's really, really helpful. So that's one thing to remember is the question marks. If you don't know, just type in a question mark. As you can see, there's not too many things that you can do in the user exec mode. Most of the time you're just going to go right to the privileged exec. How do you do that? Enable. And you see how the prompt changes to a pound sign. Now let's just look. And there are a lot more commands at your fingertips with the privileged exec. Here is where you copy and erase some of your configuration files. You do a lot of your show commands from here to just view the configuration of your router or switch. In my case, it's a switch. Next one is the global configuration mode, which is where you're going to be doing a router or a switch-wide configuration. Now I'm writing configure terminal. That gets you into it. And to exit is just to get out of it. But there's also something that is called tab complete. You see what I just did there? I hit tab and then it completed it for me. But the iOS goes even one further. If this conf only matches one possibility of a command and then the T matches only one possibility, it'll take you to that command. So you don't have to write configure terminal, you just write in conf T. So what you can do is try to, when you're typing these things in, try to shorten your command, see how short you can get them. Now let's just do another example. Let's say, okay, let's make it shorter. Let's say con T, right? Just take that F off. Well, you get an ambiguous command here because let's look why. Con, and remember, context-sensitive help. Put a question mark there. You see there's two different possibilities. So the Cisco IOS doesn't know which one to use, so it throws you that ambiguous command error. And don't worry about errors. Those are good for learning too. So we get into conf T right there. We get into the global configuration mode. Just see what commands you can do. You can do your IP addresses here, MAC addresses, access control lists, VLANs, all that kind of stuff. But let's say we just want to configure one port on my switch. Let's say I want to configure the first port. Interface F fast. Interface fast Ethernet 01. It's a mouthful, but it gets you there. See that IF right after the config? But do you want to type that in all the time? No, that's a pain. So int FO. This is what I use, and it takes you there. But you can even, let's experiment a little bit and see how short we can get this command. So okay, interface and IP. So we need to have an N. Interface. Next. Okay. And hold on. Okay. I don't know why I'm not. Okay, there it is. Fast Ethernet. I don't know why I wasn't saying that before, but yeah, fast Ethernet. So F. So you only really need to put that, and it'll take you to the same thing. Let's exit. Yeah, ambiguous command. So just play around with it. But the point is, you can shrink your commands down to a pretty good size where you can pretty much blaze through this when you know what you're doing. And it's pretty nice. And that's your interface configuration. I don't have any gigabit ports on this because my stuff is old and cheap, but if you did, it would just be a G instead of the F. You don't have to put gigabit Ethernet, but that's that. Line configuration. I'm connecting with a Cisco console cable, and so let's say I wanted to change some configurations on that or set a password. The next video I'm going to talk about setting passwords on those. Not now, but how do we get in there? Line console O. Now you have the line after the config. Yep. AXIT. There you go. Okay. But you're going to find that you're going to be shrinking a lot of your commands, and you're going to get to the same thing. Just less typing. If everything on here is typing, the less is better. So, and as long as it's human readable and things like that. But line con O. That takes you to the line configuration for the console. The only other thing in this video is the VTY. Now VTY is how you connect remotely. So if you're using SSH or if you're using Telnet, those are the VTY, are the lines that you're using to access that way. So let's look, and let's just look. Okay, so you only have console and VTY. Those are the only options that you have. So let's just say VTY. Question mark, your first line number. Now, if you look on a switch, and we'll talk about this in the next video, there can be multiple connections over, say, Telnet or SSH. So it starts at 0, and on a switch it usually goes up to 15. So you can have 16 connections for the switch. But let's do this. So we did that, so just do it again. Line VTY, so first line number. Put in there, and then you say, okay, what's next? Last line number. Well, I know my last line number is 15. And then you're configuring for all of those lines, not just one. So that's what's important, where you have on the VTY, you want to have a range instead of just one thing. But what we just showed is, in the last couple things, I did the context-sensitive help, and it walks you through it. So that's one thing that if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not totally sure, don't worry about the errors. You're there to learn, and they will help you learn. And also the context-sensitive help with the question mark, that helps a lot too. It really will. So that's all I had for this video. Like I said, I'll be making a couple more with doing a little bit more configuring switches and things like that. And stay tuned. All right.